Hello, and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And Tim and I are back for another week of college basketball review. We're going to run through everything that happened this week. We're going to go over the AP poll, look at some games. Tim, you have your Tim's team of the week and Tim's team to look out for, and what to expect going into conference tournaments, because that is coming up very, very quickly. And March is upon us very rapidly, and we are so excited to cover it all. So, Tim, you ready to run it?
Let's run it.
So, as we do every week, the first thing that we're going to look at is the AP poll. And this week was a little bit interesting because Saturday was a huge...
A little bit interesting?
It's a little bit, just a little bit interesting. Well, it's always a little bit interesting when teams 1 through 6, number 9, like number 22, number 18, like all those and everywhere in between, like everybody lost.
It was the first time in the AP poll era that 1 through 6 lost. That's never happened in the era of the AP poll.
And 7 of the top 10 teams losing, that's never happened.
Yeah, that's also never happened.
Yeah. So strange to see. Number 1 and 2, there's no movement there, but the big movers, this week's biggest riser, Baylor, jumped up from number 10 to number 3. They're up 7 spots. Duke jumped up 3 spots because they didn't lose at all. Auburn, Kansas, Kentucky, and Purdue, they slide because they all lost on Saturday. And you got Providence and Wisconsin swapping spots with Villanova and Texas Tech. They round out the top 10 going into 12. Some more big risers from this week. Tennessee and Arkansas continue to play well. They each jump up 4 spots. And St. Mary's with a huge win over Gonzaga, they jump up 4. More on them later. Some of the big fallers from this week, UCLA, they dropped a game against Oregon. They moved down 5. The Illini, they also moved down 5. And your Boilermakers, Tim, they dropped from 4th to 8th number. They dropped 4 spots. But now we're going to get into what happened this week, some of the biggest highlights and some of the big games. And so the first game that we're going to go over is from the Thursday slot. Providence and Xavier, a Big East showdown that went into triple overtime. Providence survived. They outlasted Xavier 99-92. And that seemed like a game that was never going to end. That's just a game where you don't really notice it, but then you're scrolling through your phone. Oh, they're in overtime, and you turn it on and you end up watching an hour more.
Yeah, an hour more of basketball that just randomly pops in out of nowhere.
Oh, it was such a fun game. Buzzer beater threes from both teams extended the game even further. And Providence, led by Jared Bynum with 27 points on the night, they find a way to win. Ed Cooley's living the American dream, says the great Jon Rothstein. And in a Big East that is up for grabs as ever, Providence continues to find a way to win. In 2 possession games or less, they are 11-1.
They know how to close out games.
They absolutely know how to close out games. So Providence has had a fantastic stretch. Also from Thursday, there's a pair of Pac-12 thrillers. Oregon adds a ranked win versus UCLA, defeating them. I mean, UCLA, they just need to get healthy fast. And they just
They've
had
been all up and down, but yeah, injuries.
They had a bad day. They had a bad day. Anytime you shoot 36% from the field, it's not going to go well. So, you got anything else from that game, Tim?
No, I mean, UCLA is a team that when they're fully healthy and playing their best basketball, they can play with the best of everybody, but they haven't been 100% for a while now. So they've got to try to use these last couple of games heading into their conference tournament to sort of refine themselves and reestablish themselves as one of the powerhouse teams in all of college basketball. But I think they'll be all right even after losing this one.
They just got to get healthy. And then again, Thursday, which went well into Friday morning, a double overtime shocker because Oregon State, the lowly Oregon State Beavers, took USC to double overtime. I mean,
I was astonished seeing that score line, knowing just how atrocious Oregon State has been this entire season. You let a team that has 3 total wins take a top 25 team into double overtime. And just score 90 plus and like 90 plus points on you regardless. Yeah.
Deshaun Davis had 31 and Oregon State just didn't want to go away. I mean,
they figured something out for this one, I guess.
Yeah, but they've had a bad season. It's really a drop off from last year. We just remember them being the darlings of last year's March Madness tournament, making that run. But I guess it's
from that to losing 23 games right now, I believe.
Yeah.
That's scary. That's a scary drop off.
But I think you get the point. Now we're going to the day of the week that was just a little bit interesting.
Saturday, February 26th was the day that lives in infamy for all top 10 teams in college basketball.
The day of reckoning. I mean, oh my goodness. Gonzaga and St. Mary's. We'll start at the top and go all the way down. Gonzaga and St. Mary's. St. Mary's locked them down. 57 points Gonzaga scored, and it was
their lowest total this year for them. Yeah.
The double-digit win for St. Mary's at home. That was really, really big. Arizona versus Colorado. Colorado with a huge win by 16 points, 79 to 63.
An emphatic win.
Yeah, that's firmly put themselves in the bubble and into the tournament conversation. Auburn and Tennessee. Tennessee, that was an up and down game for both teams, but Tennessee squeaked it out by 5 points. Auburn continues to struggle on the road, and Tennessee continues to be great at home. Purdue and Michigan State, I think we're going to spend a little bit more time on this one because we have our resident Boilermaker. Michigan State squeaked it out on the last second, 68 to 65. Tim, what happened? Break it down.
4 main things for me looking at this game and actually just watching the game the whole way. First of all, game plan. Tom Izzo had he came up with a great game plan to attack this Purdue team. He knew what he wanted to accomplish, and his team went out there and executed it perfectly. It was give Purdue all the twos they want, but make them work for it, but just deny as much as possible from the 3-point line because he knows how much the kick out threes can do wonders for Purdue. Second, the 3-ball. Purdue is 1 for 9 from 3, their lowest total this season. I think they've had like 5 or so games, I think, that they've made 8 plus 3. So for this was just a total loss at that point. Defensive breakdowns. They had way too many defensive breakdowns, letting Michigan State either, whether it be on the pick and roll or just breaking down on ball handlers in general, they let them get to the basket too easy and just get some open shots that it just really stunts the ability to crawl back into the game when you're down. And finally, turnovers. They were really, really bad in the turnover game, whether it be just giving up the ball in bad passes or whatnot, but also props to AJ Hoggard for Michigan State. He did a great job locking down Jaden Ivey and Eric Hunter, stripping them multiple times throughout the game on many different occasions. So overall, Michigan State played very well. Purdue just couldn't really get anything going other than Zach Edey, who of course had a great 25-point game. But that fed right into Michigan State's game plan. They knew what they wanted to make them do, and that's how they were able to keep it close. And last second 3 just did the job for him. So
yeah, that was the one thing that you mentioned that I really noticed is that the turnovers was Purdue's really
that hurt a lot. That hurt majorly,
especially in the second half where they were trying to get back into it.
It's hard to win a game with 17 turnovers.
Yeah, for a Michigan State team that desperately needed a win, they had lost 5 of their last 6, and they'd stopped a crucial slide. Like that was one of the things that I was noticing throughout the week is like, geez, this Michigan State team is sliding fast. So that win against Purdue, much, much needed. As we continue down the slate, Baylor earns a win against Kansas by 10 points. Baylor just slingshotted themselves right back into the 1 seed conversation. And they're a dangerous team turning it on at just the right time. Baylor back-to-back talk. Anybody? They're certainly thinking it. So,
yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to bring it up, but I think a lot remains to be seen before we even head into the tournament. I mean, they're definitely a team that, with the style of play and the way they've been playing lately, have the ability to push late run. But I don't know if I'm really ready to jump on the back-to-back train for Baylor quite yet. They're a very good team, but I'm not sure if I see the consistency to run the table, if you will, down the stretch.
Aha! I see what you did there. You're so clever.
I think
Anyway, back to the madness. Arkansas defeated Kentucky 75-73. JD Note had a 30-point outing, and Arkansas continues to rise. They grabbed another high quality win at home against a powerful Kentucky team, and they're a team that definitely can shake some things up in a very volatile SEC, especially this year. And like not just the SEC, but around college basketball, I feel like a lot of those major power conferences are up for grabs, and the SEC is definitely no exception. But Arkansas, they can make some noise.
For Kentucky, can we talk about Oscar Tshiebwe?
We can't talk about Oscar Tshiebwe.
Beast.
30 he also
points,
had 30 points.
18 rebounds. That dude is just a monster. It is so hard to stop him from getting what he wants on both offensive and defensive end when it comes to, I mean, rebounding machine on both ends of the floor. 8 of his 18 rebounds were offensive rebounds. And he's just he's such a powerful force near the basket. I mean, he's so hard to move. He's got the touch to make baskets on all sides of the rim. So he's a force, and he is going to be hard to stop for a lot of teams that don't have a strong, powerful center that can sort of put up some resistance to him.
Yeah, they need to be able to match Oscar Tshiebwe, any team that goes and plays Kentucky.
Hard to match, that's for sure.
In the month of March. But we have one more top 10 upset. TCU defeated Texas Tech. We talked about how good Texas Tech was last week, and they were our team of the week. Well, they dropped a game.
Came back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, they came back down to earth. Mike Miles led the Horned Frogs with 26 points, and TCU continues to fly under the radar. I think this win potentially puts them in the tournament conversation. You know, those are all the top 10 upsets. We have some other Saturday highlights. Tim, you talked about your team to look out for, the Wisconsin Badgers. They earned a hard-fought victory at the rack, and
knew it wasn't going to be easy, but they got the job done.
Well, not many teams go into Piscataway and beat Rutgers, but anytime you do that, it's a quality victory. And
for sure,
Wisconsin definitely earned that win, and now they're sitting atop the Big Ten. And I think, you know, with 4 straight wins, they're arguably playing the best basketball in the Big Ten right now. You know, Rutgers on the other side, they have some work to do. They go play Indiana in essentially a win and in scenario. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But
Rutgers was definitely a very unique team because they had such that good stretch there of 4 straight wins against top 25 teams, and then they go and immediately crash back down and drop 3 straight. So it's like they can get themselves back on track with that IU win, and then try to make their way through.
Welcome to the Big Ten.
Yeah, honestly, that's
where you
season
throw
has
out
just been
everything
all over the Big Ten.
You knew about college basketball, you know. But
good.
Well, what a day Saturday was in college hoops. The most wild day we've seen in a while. And I think it's safe to say that it was just a little bit interesting.
I know for one, I was looking at headlines. I was just like, another top 10 team goes down. I'm like, when is it going to end? I was like, I saw Gonzaga, of course, was in the last game. So I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine if Gonzaga would lose as well. And then all the top 6, and then they just went and did. I was like, huh? I didn't think that was actually
we didn't.
I mean, St. Mary's obviously is a very good team, but like, yeah, like you said, everything just got completely shaken up on Saturday. So, and here we are.
Yeah. Anarchy? Nope. Just college basketball. The Jon Rothstein quotes just keep rolling on in. We sleep in May. So now we're going to turn it over to everybody's favorite segment, Tim's Teams of the Week. Tim, you get to highlight a team that you thought played really, really well. So who is your team of the week for this past week?
Looking at this past week, I immediately after Saturday really sort of honed in on St. Mary's, because St. Mary's obviously put one of the biggest whoopings on Gonzaga defensively that they've seen this entire season, obviously holding them to 57 points in terms of a team that scores almost 80 points a game. That is practically unheard of. And then their previous performance this week, obviously against a much a weaker opponent, but they held San Diego to 46 points. So their defense is really clicking on all cylinders. In terms of the Gonzaga game, they really honed in on Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren, holding them each to 6 points apiece, and basically said, hey, if the rest of you guys want to beat us, go ahead. and they just sort of called them out, and they didn't meet that challenge. So St. Mary's is really showing that their defense, I mean, they're showing defense wins games. And it's really worked out for them. They're going to be interesting to watch as the end of the season comes and heading into the conference and national tournament. But they had one hell of a week for sure, I would say, for basically showing that they belong firmly in this top 25, because they just recently snuck in, but they showed that they belong.
Well, not only did they cement their place in the top 25, they essentially punched their ticket into March as an at-large bid,
absolutely,
regardless of what happens in the WCC tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, St. Mary's.
You can't ignore it. You can't ignore
St. Mary's has found their identity as a defensive team. Anytime you hold Gonzaga to that level of offense,
people will take notice.
People, the college basketball world definitely took note. And it was a very fun week to be a St. Mary's fan. So now, Tim, we're going to go to your team to look out for this week. Who do you have in the week before the conference tournament start?
Yeah, this one, as much as it will appear that there will be some bias involved, which, I mean, there always is. But it is a very important week and important 2 games to look out for the Purdue Boilermakers.
Well, this is Tim's teams to look out for, so it could be literally whoever you want. Big Ten centric.
Exactly. Yes, as of right now, it's been a little Big Ten centric, but this is going to be a very important week for Purdue in terms of where they stand going into the tournament. They're trying to get back on track after a poor performance in the Breslin Center out in East Lansing. But they've got 2 revenge games this week, and 2 very important ones to get back on track. First, you're going to Wisconsin tomorrow, which now after this new poll comes out is an 8 versus 10 matchup. So that's going to be a great game to watch. We'll see what the superstars on both sides are going to be able to do. And if Purdue is able to win, they immediately get themselves back into the conversation for potentially sharing a Big Ten title, which is obviously, I mean, it's a short-term goal, but it's a goal for them nonetheless. And then, of course, you look to later on in the week, one of the marquee rivalries in the Big Ten, you've got IU coming
that's going to be a fun
to
one.
West Lafayette. And if they come off of a Tuesday win, if Purdue is able to win on Tuesday, get themselves back on track, playing good basketball, and then you've got the Hoosiers coming into West Lafayette.
Well, especially after the Hoosiers beat them the first time.
Exactly. Let's just say my inside sources tell me that both the team and the fan base are more than ready to welcome the Hoosiers into Mackey Arena. So it is going to be a fun night to experience and a fun game to watch. So it's going to be really important for Purdue to get back on track with these 2 games and start playing that really high caliber basketball that they were playing earlier on in the season, to head into the Big Ten tournament and try to cement themselves most likely as a probably 2 seed, unless they potentially, I mean, if they win the Big Ten tournament, maybe they could sneak back into 1, but most likely a 2 seed. But really what's most important is them getting back and playing their best basketball at the right time.
Yeah, and just to raise the stakes a little bit further on that Purdue IU game being the last one of the season for the Boilermakers, let's look at it from the flip side. IU is on the bubble. They are fighting. They are fighting for their lives. And Rutgers and IU, 2 teams that are on the bubble, that's IU's first game of the week. Say IU drops that game to Rutgers. They need that win against Purdue in Mackey Arena to keep their chances alive.
Even if they beat Rutgers, I'm not sure if they have enough of a resume to get in unless a massive Big Ten tournament performance.
Yeah, even if they beat Rutgers, I mean, it gives them a little bit more cushion. But if they lose against Rutgers, that just adds an even bigger sense of urgency on that Purdue IU game. So that one is very convenient.
Mackey will be rocking. I will tell you that much.
Oh, it's going to be.
We might break some sound records. We'll see.
Tim, are you going to be a part of that?
Oh, you know it. You think I'd miss out on that? Whew. Not a chance.
Absolutely. Hey, Purdue IU is always a good time. But that's all we got for this week's episode of College Basketball Week in Review. We got more college basketball content coming. If you want, we got our baseball series, the rivalry out of state, where Andrew and I, Red Sox and Yankees fans, we take a look at things around the world of baseball while the lockout is still going on. Hopefully that comes back soon. We are dearly missing baseball, and we will be getting into more college basketball as March comes around, the conference tournaments, the NCAA tournaments. We can't wait to bring it to you. So like and subscribe for more Running the Table content. And until next time, we out.